Hey everybody, Mike Drutar here again, your Kona real estate expert. We're going to take a look at the market data for March of 2021. This is about the last month where things are going to make sense in terms of looking at 1 month compared to the same month in the previous year. We're going to do it for March. We're also going to go and look back at the first quarter of 2021. I'm also going to focus on something a little bit different this month. I'm going to look at how the market has changed and evolved from where it was 5 years ago for the market from $2 million on up. We're going to take a look at what kind of pace we saw back then versus what we're seeing now. It's really surprising data. It turns out that there's much more change in the market from 2 million and above than we see right now from 2 million and below. But before we get started on all that, I need you guys to do me a big favor. Click the subscribe button and the like button, the thumbs up, ring the bell. You'll get notifications pushed to your phone when I send out videos and property tours, other useful information. I'm starting to add some videos on interesting topics that you guys may have. I've had some great suggestions from viewers. I really appreciate that. We're going to be working on a couple of those in the coming month ahead. And if you have more ideas of things that you'd like to hear me talking about, specifically related to real estate here on the Big Island of Hawaii, or real estate in general, feel free to let me know. Okay, so let's start off by looking at the units sold. We're seeing incredible pace in this market right now. Last month in North Kona, we had 71 houses sold. That's compared to 47 in March of last year. For condos, we had 81 sales compared to 33. That's an increase of 145%, a huge number for condos. Up in South Kohala, we had 31 houses sold compared to 30 of last year. So again, we're seeing that the rate of inventory that we have up in South Kohala, particularly in Waikoloa Village and places like that, there are just not many listings, and that's the thing that's holding back that market a little bit. However, their condo market was still very strong. We had 46 sales compared to 28 in last year. So again, we're seeing this shift that didn't exist a few months ago. It's probably been about 3 or 4 months now where there's a massive move over to the condo market. We're seeing so many condos in escrow, so many condos sold compared to houses. In terms of median price, again, the North Kona residential median price over $900,000. Once again, we're at $928,000 compared to $764,000 last year. That's an increase of 21.4%. The median price for condos in North Kona last month was $438,000. That's an increase of 33.5%. Up in South Kohala, we saw a median price of $745,000. That's compared to $541,875 in March of last year, so a significant increase, 37.5% there. Condo market was actually just about the same. $715,000 was the median price compared to $713,750 in March of last year, so virtually no change there in terms of median price in the condo market in South Kohala. Okay guys, so for the next set of numbers, we're going to be looking at the first quarter data, January, February, March. We like these big sample sizes. It does a lot of smoothing to keep from data getting a little bit weird sometimes, which happens particularly in that condo market up in South Kohala. Let's take a look at what we got here. So units sold, residential, North Kona, 197 compared to 136 in the first 3 months of last year. That's on line with what we should expect. An increase of 44.8%. That's a significantly high number. Condos, 176 sales compared to 98 in the first quarter of 2020. An increase of 79.5%, almost 80% up in condo sales. Truly incredible. When we go up to South Kohala, here it is again. 72 houses sold compared to 85 last year. The inventory is just not there. There's the demand. We could actually be selling 40, 50% more than we sold in last year, but we just don't have anything to sell. I have big concerns moving forward with how that's going to happen and continue to make prices run up in areas that are traditionally less about people coming from the mainland and more about folks who live and work here. Looking at our condos, we saw 118 sales of condos in South Kohala. That's compared to 78 of last year, 51% increase there. So we are still seeing the condo movement up there in South Kohala. And then we take a look at median price. $905,000, the residential median price for the entire first quarter of the year. So we've got a lot of data in there. We're pretty locked in over that $900,000 price as it is right now. Condo median price, $414,500. That's a 22% increase. Up in South Kohala, the residential median price settled in at $740,000, a 26% increase. And the condo median price, I know I got a lot of numbers here for you guys, $693,500, an increase of 9.64%. Now, I mentioned that the data is going to start being kind of weird when we compare it to the previous year. Let me give you an example of that. I'm recording this on April 9th, 2021, and so far this month we've had between North Kona and South Kohala 46 condos sold. Compared to all of April last year, there were only 32 condos sold. So we've already exceeded it by a lot, and we're only 9 days into the month. So when I mentioned that the data is going to get really weird from here on out, probably this is going to be the last market report I have for a while where I compare it to the previous year. I think for the next year or so, probably, maybe 9 months, I'm going to be comparing it to the month before because that seems like it's going to be more relevant and actionable data for you guys. Okay, so I mentioned to you guys I was going to do a little bit of a study on how much the market has changed for the plus $2 million market. Now, I know that doesn't apply to everybody, but it's still some really interesting data to look at. We know that in a market like this, one of the more difficult things to have is that the bottom of the market is lifted up to an unattainable level for a lot of people. So I just pulled some random data. This is from November of 2015. Back then, we had, in terms of just houses, we had 5 listings under $300,000. That's long gone. 60 listings between $300,000 and $500,000, and 99 listings between $500,000 and $700,000. These are fee simple residential properties in North Kona and South Kohala. In the plus $2 million market, interesting, we had 103 listings back then. At that time, the pace was such that they had 10 properties in escrow, and that seemed like a good number, and they had sold 6 in the previous month, and that was a good number as well. So the inventory back then at that plus $2 million market was 17.2 months. Today, it's so different. Now, the prices of everything is lifted up, so a $2 million house in 2015 is probably a it's probably a $3.5 million house today. So I recognize that. So there's going to be a little bit more data to play with, but still it's pretty interesting. So back in 2015, we had 103 active listings over $2 million. Now we only have 63, so way less of a market than we used to have. Back then, we had 10 properties in escrow. Right now, we have 46 properties in escrow. So you see 4 times as much of a market there as there used to be. Also, we had 6 sales in November of 2015 of $2 million plus properties. Now, we had 25 just last month. So that market has gone up 4-fold. The inventory is down 40%. So it's a totally different world in that price point than it used to be. Now, as we look at the rest of our market in general, the $1 million and under market, we continue to see massive compression and very little inventory. Last month, we had a total of 63 houses sold under $1 million fee simple between North Kona and South Kohala. Right now, we only have 36 active, so that puts our inventory at 0.57 months, so basically a little over 2 weeks. That's about the same as where it was last month. So, good news, we're seeing a little bit of plateauing, at least in the residential market for now. The condo market's a little bit of a different story. 48 condos active on the market right now. We had 98 sales last month. That's an inventory of 0.48 months. So we're down to 2-week inventory on condominiums between North Kona and South Kohala. We're seeing a lot of competition, especially under $700,000 there. That's compared to last month where we had 0.85 months of inventory in the condo market. So about 3.5 weeks. So we're seeing, again, more compression in the condo market. We're seeing a plateauing of inventory in the residential market. I'm really, really hopeful that a lot of people are going to start seeing an amazing opportunity it is to sell right now if you have the ability to sell, if you have somewhere else to go, which is often the number 1 critical problem. It's an opportunity for a lot of people to make a lot of money on sale and do some profit taking. These numbers that we're seeing of 25% gains that have been going on for the last 6-8 months or so, that is not sustainable. At the end, it's going to go back down at some point. Now, whether it goes down or levels off, that remains to be seen. No one really has a crystal ball. There's a lot of dynamics that come into play as to whether or not more inventory is going to come on the market. But I can tell you that a 20% median gain is not something that can go on forever. All right, guys, thanks for joining me again. I know it was really data heavy this month. I'll try to get a little bit more soft stuff next month, but you can get all kinds of fun information if you subscribe to the channel. I got all kinds of property tours, and again, we have different topics that we talk about from time to time, and I'd love to hear your suggestions on what to talk about. I'll see you again next month. Be sure to click the subscribe button. Aloha, guys.